Are we on?
Like I said, I'm on. Well, you got your 5 more weeks or something.
I don't mind it. What's on the zoo?
Is that a yes or a no? Yes.
I might come back.
Good evening. This is the Mount Anthony Union High School District 14 meeting for Wednesday. I have to remind myself. Wednesday, January 23rd. We are live tonight, and the first item on our agenda is public comments. I don't see anybody. So we'll move on to the presentation. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd like to, Coach Frederickson always likes to give some positive things. Last Friday, I went with my wife, the swim team, we went down to Pittsfield, and after we we asked the youngsters what they liked to go eat, and they said Panera's. So we took the kids, 45 kids, we went into Panera's. I took a few of the middle school kids over to the pizza place, but she took about 38 kids into Panera's. They all went in nice. The manager came over and spoke to her and said this was the best group of young people they've ever had in that restaurant. And as a matter of fact, a few other patrons came over to my wife and said how nice the kids behaved. So it was really nice to, get compliments like that for kids.
And that was, what grades? Middle school and high school?
Well, I had the middle school kids and she had the 9 through 12 kids.
Plus the fact that the boys and girls both won.
Yeah. Both won the championship this year.
And we need a Panera Bread here.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Any other board citizen comments?
I guess I can do it here. This is a comment because this, and this is for the middle school. I'm saying it because it was a concern raised by a bunch of parents. And inside of our gym that we put in here, and we have a set of bleachers that go up under the basketball. On the wall is posted a bunch of signs that says do not sit on or use. And it was a little embarrassing. I didn't know it, and a bunch of other parents didn't know it. We were all sitting on them, and somebody come over and said, you can't sit on this, you can't use them. And we couldn't get an answer as to why we really couldn't use them, because they said, well, they're coated, they're padded, but we're afraid we may get them broke and some vice versa. So we heard a lot of things, and the parents were really upset. Then I came in the next couple of days on the weekend, and they was loaded, and nobody was saying get off of them. So we didn't understand that, and so I really wanted to make sure we asked a question as to why would such a thing happen. And we have some signs up, and everybody, especially the only reason to bring it is because of the public and the parents and the perception that they got from the middle school in terms of what we have for equipment for use. So you can answer now, or somebody else can take on and come back later.
I'm not sure Tim has the answer right now. Oh, you do have the answer? Sure.
So these are the bleachers on the south wall.
Right.
It's underneath the basket itself. Most of the time when folks go there to see basketball games, they're actually in their closed up position. So that it's not actually seated. I think it's 3 sets of seats.
Right.
Usually it's pushed up all the way, and the pad is in place.
Right.
The pad is not for seating. It's not for a comfy seat on top. It's for protection for players coming off the court and slamming into it, much like we were watching 7th and 8th graders hit it tonight. The problem with sitting on it when it's in its pushed up position is that the weight of people sitting on it actually crushes the mechanism that allows it to slide out. And when school started, I want to say September, October, there was actually workmen in there having to go back in and repair the ironwork and the metal structure underneath it, because over time, students for gym classes and various activities were sitting on it, and the weight of the you sitting on the seat, crushing the next seat, was bending the infrastructure. So that's all been repaired and slid back in. It has, like I said, the cushions are meant for protection for kids playing. And when you go watch the games, those seats cannot be pulled out to their full extent, the 3 layers or whatever, because it would be too close to the game line for a basketball game. So you can use it when it's not an athletic contest that requires a full court, but you have to keep them in the upright position or the pushed-in position when the basketball games. So that's probably, I think that's what you were saying. You saw one night when you were in there playing.
That was one night, and then I said the next night they had something else that had nothing to do with basketball. It was still in that position, and it was loaded because those were the parents went to first to sit on because the ones on the side was pushed up and they all went to those. And I'm saying, nobody said get up. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering, why not? Because there wasn't someone there that was monitoring the situation. So it's one of those things that doesn't appear that we can enforce. And so I don't understand why we don't just take them out or use them and break them and then take them out or whatever. But it
Sure.
just doesn't make good sense perception-wise for the community to come into the school and then see signs and doing
So
stuff
let's
like
have
that.
Mr.
So,
Marsden
yeah.
brainstorm with somebody, Tim, and see what we can come up with for
Sure.
either signage or
Yeah.
non-usage or some such thing.
I would just add that Mr. Turn, who supervises a lot of the intramural and is out there most of the days for the activities that I've seen, does a pretty good job of being consistent. But, and like I said, gym classes, kids aren't sitting on them now. It's a relatively new thing. I think in the past, people sat on them all the time, which is
Right.
probably why they had to be pulled out and repaired. But they're really not meant to be sat on, much like the ones that are on the western wall. The ones that most folks are probably used to seeing, the large seated ones, a lot of those there had to be repairs done to pieces of that as well in the fall, because when they're in their pushed up position, people were climbing up on top and
That's
sitting
right.
on them and squat, so just trying to, get people to be aware of the fact you shouldn't be sitting on top of them or else it breaks them.
Well, thank you for bringing it to our attention, and it's good to make sure we have a clear understanding of what's can be used and what can't be. Next, excuse me?
Yeah,
Nelson?
you answered before, you signage. I think that, people will understand if the signage says that when they're in a closed position, they're not to be set on, versus don't set, you don't know which way to go. People just want to know, I think is the answer, and signage does that.
So I'm sure you can come up with some solution for that. Thank you, Leon. The presentation was postponed for tonight. We are going to have a little homework, though. Bill Colvin, who is, I mentioned it on the newest agenda. It talks about his title with a grant from the Economic Development Committee. They would like feedback on something that Don is going to hand out under superintendent's report. So we will have Bill Colvin come to this board, as well as Katie Schumbeck, who's been working with the committee on a couple different pilot ideas she has. So that should be a nice presentation, but we put it off till February. Now, speaking of February, I'm going to jump around a little bit. One of the things, this is our first Wednesday meeting, to try and keep them consistent. We are currently on the schedule for the fourth Wednesday. Pownell and SVSU would like to switch with us to do the third Wednesday. However, next month, the third Wednesday is in vacation, and we don't usually meet during vacation. So we can either try and continue with the fourth Wednesday and see if we can move something around, or we might just do the fourth Monday. I know that would be terrible since we've only done the Wednesdays once, but we typically do not meet during vacation because Sue and Tim are not here, nor are the teachers here if we have presentations. So does anybody have an opinion about the fourth Wednesday or the third Wednesday or a Monday?
Why don't we stick with Monday? I mean, that's most of our schedules. That's what we've been used to for years. Why are we changing to Wednesday?
Because the idea was to try and streamline all of the district's meetings on Wednesdays so that everybody knew that different boards met on Wednesday. And don't roll your
And
eyes,
to keep
Tim.
administrators from having to be at all these board meetings, and it keeps me one afternoon where I just left a 4:30 policy meeting, and then I can take a little break, and then I come here and get 2 meetings out of the way on one night, instead of giving up 2 nights and 4 nights a week from doing some of these things. So that was the goal, was to do that.
So I'm going to give you enough warning that we're either going to meet on the fourth Monday, or we'll stick with the fourth Wednesday if that's what happens. But I think we'll probably end up on that Monday.
Only that the SVSU, if they were moved to the fourth, then they could have a meeting next month in case they need to.
And actually, do we need an SVSU meeting? We warned the budget, right?
we need to approve calendar.
All right, so anyway, we won't dwell on that. So the
Okay.
next item on the agenda is finance, and can we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Second it.
All in favor? It's unanimous. Any questions on the budget status report that was in your packet? Rick is seeing none, and we're going to move on to the Finance Committee budget update and what you'd,
Well, just a very short update. We'll be meeting on the 31st at 4:30 at the central office to give final approval to the MAU budget,
Thursday, the 31st at 4:30.
central office.
And you're going to try and back that up with another board meeting, with BSD maybe?
I'm not, but
Or
somebody is.
somebody is, okay.
We have
So
one
do you
other-
want to give us an update for the public on where we're at with the budget?
Presently, we are at a budget of just under, an increased budget of just under 6%. The business manager has been working on the revenue section of it. We had a draft of it, which we went over this afternoon. I don't want to quote figures and facts of that until it becomes a finalized draft, becomes a finalized presentation, but that information will become public as soon as we're confident that the figures are correct.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions of Tim? Leon, I know you weren't at the meeting. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm fine.
I have
Okay.
one other issue.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the allocation schedule for the CDC. The allocation schedule is simply the way that expenses are handled between MAU, the high school building, and the CDC. It's based on a long-standing formula that was created quite a while ago and tweaked to meet present conditions. The Finance Committee approved this tentatively until the board makes a final decision.
We saw this at the last finance
Right.
meeting, and they approved it there, right?
Right.
But it's not here in this.
Other.
Is the CDC voted on this yet?
We, yes, it was voted on the CDC,
It was approved at CDC?
because I remember. Yeah, it was voted on in CDC.
So we could vote on it here. It was seen by actually
It's just that
the,
we didn't have it on the agenda, or included in here for anybody, that's all.
right, it's not.
That's
But-
all I was saying, it wasn't included anywhere for anybody.
But it was on the finance, and it was approved by the finance.
So it's an
Committee.
other
It's an
approval,
other.
but it's not, but what I'd like to do is put I'll make a note to have the agreement put on the packet for people to see it. So a motion to accept the allocation agreement that was approved by the Finance Committee last week, right?
Correct.
Second.
So Tim made that motion and Rob seconded it. Are there any questions on it? Everyone was there except Leon, I think. All in favor? It's unanimous. Can we have a motion to move the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
So that was Tim and somebody.
Yeah,
And are there any questions on the consent agenda?
just, we hate to see that we're losing two good people for retirement down there. Patty and Tom was on the consent agenda for retirement coming out. So it's always a special recognition of people that have been with us for a long period of time. And
Patty and Tom are each over 20-something
Right.
years.
They've done a good job as far as I know of all the time that they've been here. Well respected, so I hate to see that talent being lost.
They will be hard to replace. And maybe Rob could write a note.
Sure. Can't wait for March.
All right. Now, I'm a little confused, though. Is Patty working this year?
No.
Okay. So there's no other questions on the consent agenda. All in favor? Or did you have a question? No. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Administrators report. Sue, here's your,
They're passing.
oh, they go this way?
Yep.
So you should have a piece of paper that says statewide public school choice information. There's a new law that has come through the state that is a statewide school choice program for grades 9 through 12. We presently have an agreement with Wilmington and Arlington where our students can choose to go to their school or their students can choose to come to our school. This is above and beyond that agreement. This is now a law that we need to follow. The transfer limits are set up by the state. For next year, it's either 10% of the population or 40 kids. It can't be more than that, or less than that, rather. It could be more than that if you wanted to. 2014 and beyond, it's 10% of the population or 40 students. So for us, we're in kind of a unique situation because really we have, transportation does not follow the student, okay? So we have Arlington and Wilmington, who we've been working with on this for years anyway. And then beyond that, you would have to travel quite far. You would have to, it would have to be a family that brings their child, say, to Rutland, Brattleboro. I would think those would be the next closest. Typically, we have less than 5 that embrace this. Presently, we have 4 students from Arlington at Mount Anthony High School. We have 3 students from Mount Anthony that go to Arlington. That's typical. That's about how many. It's always around 5 or less. So tonight, school boards by February 1st have to recommend and set the limits for students that can leave and the capacity we have to bring students in. So that's due February 1st, so we need to actually do that tonight. Applications are due on March 1st each year. I've already changed the application over that we have presently so it fits all the criteria here. Preference is granted to those who were denied in prior years. All applications must come through the School of Residence. No funding follows the student. Where they go, it stays where their school is. ADM stays within the School of Residence. Again, no transportation is provided. Students who transfer to another school must be, and they have, in good standing at the school he or she attends. And the School of Residence is obligated to pay the school the kid comes from is obligated to pay additional special education costs if they are required to educate the student. That's kind of, it's 15 pages long, and I condensed it into that. So I think today, again, I don't think this is going to have a big effect on us. But we have to decide tonight. My recommendation is we do what they said, 10% or 30 students.
So 30
come or
students.
go. So it'd be 30 students.
I'll make a motion then to accept the limitation of-
Capacity, it's capacity.
is capacity, that says specification, transfer limits of 10% or 30
So I'm
students.
saying I would recommend 30. 10% is almost 100 kids.
Okay, 30 kids then.
I'll second that.
And just, if anybody wanted, I'm going to ask,
Yeah, I
Leon,
read
you
it.
haven't, I know, but the papers that were linked, Mary Lee ran off a couple copies of the frequently asked questions and the memos from the Department of Ed from December, if anybody wants a copy. Oops. Leon?
No, I was just saying, I read the thing last night, and I was gonna say that, I was wanting to make sure that because we have students that go to the Career Development Center, and they have to come through Mount Anthony, and then they can be part of that program, and Mount Anthony is part of an exchange They didn't know
Well,
whether we
that's
had-
a separate policy that we set, that you, this board set, which said that if a student chooses to go to the CDC and they need to take a course
That's a separate
to
one.
stay
but-
there, that they
Right.
can come to, like, say, take an English course, they can take one with us, but tuition follows them.
But, oh, okay, so this
Yeah.
is above that, but tuition follow them.
That's different.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that if we had an opportunity to get more students in here through the exchange from the other areas, and that we didn't leave off the Career Development Center. I didn't know
They,
what the
they
gym-
have to, there's a percentage they have to pay, correct, Rick? Right, that they have to pay tuition to take that course, but we allow them to do that if they can't get back to their school on time to get an English course, social studies course, something.
That's part of our tuitioning
Right.
policy.
Right, and so we would probably be having more kids that may want to come hit the center if they had the opportunity to.
So right now, they have that opportunity. If they apply to Mount Anthony in an application from wherever, they can come to Mount Anthony and no money comes with them. And then they can take a course at the CDC center, and then somebody's tuition goes up.
Well, they'll be paying for the CDC, but they won't be paying for.
No,
Mount
they won't be
Anthony,
paying
is
for
that-
the CDC if they're Mount Anthony students.
No, they wouldn't if they,
That's right,
increased
that's
the
why I
school
wanted to make
choice.
sure, see, right,
Yep, they
whether that
wouldn't.
was gonna affect that number, because if that was the case, if you went to either one
You're
of those
taking your
areas
coat
out
off,
here,
you're gonna correct this?
you'll wanna go to, you'll wanna come into Mount Anthony and then take CDC center courses and not have to pay, but otherwise you're taking students that are paying to go to CDC, and we said if you here and you can't get back, we wanna work out a plan.
But
for you
that,
to be
we
at Mount
already have
Anthony.
that in place.
Right.
Yeah.
This is
That's
different.
different. This would be a student that becomes a Mount Anthony student and goes to the Career Development Center as a Mount Anthony student,
Right, I just wanted to make sure that,
right?
go ahead.
Yeah, well, there's a number of different distinctions taking place. One is if they are within the CDC's enrollment zone.
Which
that
is
will
the
be
county.
handled differently than if they are outside the CDC enrollment zone, which is a different
That was my next question.
application altogether. But if they're within the CDC enrollment zone and they want to come down and take pre-law, and for convenience, as Sue said, you know, are going to piggyback an English course because of the travel time between the two, it's more convenient and more logical to do that than traveling the distance. We charge per credit on that basis based on our cost per pupil. If they're within the CDC enrollment zone and they want to take advantage of the school choice, they will come in, there'll be no money transferred, but there'll be a full, full-fledged MAU student at that point. And the key thing I want to correct, I heard a couple people say this, those aren't MAU students going to the CDC. If for example, if it comes from Sunderland, that's recorded as a Sunderland student in CDC, and Sunderland will pay that proportionate share on a 6-semester rolling average. So there's a lot of complications taking place. The key to this whole thing is you got to set your capacity low enough so that you don't risk having to hire staff for students you've got no income for. So it truly has to be the capacity that Sue feels is comfortable that the existing staff can absorb into the wide array of classes that she provides.
But we
because-
can't go lower than the 30.
Right, that's correct.
That's the law. I'm just telling you. what the law
Exactly,
says.
and they did that last year in the legislature, but I will say there, one of the things that I've talked to the Department of Ed attorney about was a number of courses that Mount Anthony has are program courses. So if you have a program that, let's say maybe for the students who are hearing impaired, or there's a specific program that, like the Acorns, that maybe at a high school level, then the special ed costs, which are now typically one-to-one, is how they're billed now. But I asked the attorney if we could incorporate the cost for the program, which would be more than just that one-to-one teacher, and he said that was a really good question, but these are things they didn't think about. So I mean, and I think my concern as a Mount Anthony board member is that if we get an influx of people that are going to come for the specialized programs, that's different than if they're coming to take courses so that, and also be part of our sports and activities. So I think that we just need to be mindful, because it's now not a school agreement with Wilmington or Arlington. It's a parent of any school in the state can say.
Public school,
any-
public high school.
Well, right, I mean, they can live anywhere.
But not Manchester, for instance.
Not, because that's an independent school.
Well, Manchester could come here.
Yeah, but not Burton, which is the high school.
Right, but if a student in Manchester wanted to come here, they would just apply. And they could come.
That's,
I mean, if there's capacity, they could come.
that's not the way I was interpreting it, so that's why I asked. It
We,
seemed to say that
Burton,
towns that have
there's
the-
no money exchanging, right?
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, as Manchester is a non-operating secondary level school, has school choice. So if they have a parent that wants to come to Mount Anthony, they would pay the tuition, they would tuition in.
That's how I
And
understand
they would pay
it.
that tuition, and Manchester sets that tuition, I think it's a state average or whatever number they set it at. They would tuition into Mount Anthony at that point. They don't have school, they don't have this school choice, because they're not operating a secondary school. Burton doesn't have this school choice because they're not a public school.
Right.
So they could come now.
But, you know, if there's a parent, they could have come all along and handed you the check.
Well, actually, no, because we have a non-tuitioning in policy. So and
Okay.
according to our policy, if somebody from Manchester wanted to come here, even if they were paid,
It would have to meet
it
one
would
of the
have to
four
meet one of the
criteria.
four criteria. So this opens that door in another way. I mean, there's things that I don't think people have, I mean, no one's experienced it yet, so we'll see.
But my understanding is that if we had to pay additional funding for a
Correct.
special education student, the school that the student comes from would have to pay that.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
But what I'm saying beyond that is if you want to take the cost of a program and you divide it by the kids versus just a teacher.
We would charge them that.
Right.
If there was a self-contained program, and it cost $200,000, we had 9 kids in it, they put the 10th kid in, they would pay 1/10 of that $200,000 or $20,000.
For the program.
Plus, if there's an additional one-on-one pair or some other thing.
They'd have to pay that.
They would pay that as well.
Right.
If the state hasn't figured out that that's what they're gonna allow us to do, then we're gonna do it anyway.
That's how I understand the law,
Because-
that we could do that.
Because we've done it that way in other districts.
Well, and that's what I explained to them, that we had done it with other surrounding districts for our
And
own
it's still a win-win
program.
for everybody, because for someone to recreate that program somewhere, it's gonna cost them a lot more than our proportionate share, and that helps offset, that proportionate share helps us offset the program,
If there's capacity.
if there's capacity.
So it is new, and the way it was written before, it went pretty smoothly. I mean, as Sue said, 4 or 5 kids in either direction. So, did we vote on this, Richard?
Right here.
Ken?
I just don't understand how Vermont sets this up without having money follow the kid. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. What if we had 40 kids decided from Wilmington and Arlington decided to come here? Really, that would kill you, all those kids coming here. It just doesn't make sense.
That's what
In Massachusetts, what is it, a simple $5,000 stipend each kid follows with? It's not per pupil, but it's at least something.
Well, it works in the other way, too. If 40 kids go out, you might devastate a
Wow.
school district. I mean,
That's right.
Leon, did you have your hand up?
No.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Sue, did you say that we have 4 or 5 who've also attended other Arlington or
We have 3 right now in
Wilmington.
Arlington and 4 from Arlington down here.
any in Wilmington?
Not this year, but we had several that graduated last year. We had 3 or 4 last year that graduated from Mount Anthony. We don't typically have kids go to Wilmington, but we've had kids come here.
So,
And
I'll-
this- I was gonna say, in the New York area, we wouldn't qualify for this because it's saying in-state.
No, it's
The Career Development
Vermont
Center.
Public.
oh, take that hat off.
Well, we're just trying to work on something to get students in, so
My understanding is we can't say less than 30, even though I would have
Right.
recommended less than 30, we can't
Right.
The law says it has to be 30 or 10%.
Right, that's the minimum, and next year it's 40. So any more questions? All in favor? So the capacity, somebody, and who's the point person?
I'm the point person.
So that there's no, good.
It goes to me, then it goes to central office to be signed by the superintendent. Typically, that's how we've done it.
So under FYI, there's something under FYI
For who?
for you.
There is?
The last one.
Oh.
Association of Schools.
We were accredited. We got the letter this week that we were accredited by NEASC, and we actually don't have any requirements till the 2-year, whatever it's called. In 2 years, we have to write a report. Yeah, we just heard from them this week. Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Okay.
Congratulations, all that work. All that work for this 4-page letter. Does it come with anything?
Come with anything. A pat on the back,
Does it come with a certificate or something?
Not even a certificate.
something to hang on the wall.
You get a little pin suit, no one gets pins or anything, no lapel pins? We ought to tell them they ought to give out lapel pins for all the teachers in the, congratulations, Sue, and please pass it on to your staff. I know it was a 2-year laborious process, so.
And I would say it came with a lot of commendations, and it's worthwhile reading the
Yeah.
letter. It's very impressive, all the commendations that they made for your
So
staff.
could you make sure that Dawson and that Patrick
We
get a
already
copy
did
of
an
it?
article on it.
Well, send it again.
All right.
Say good things.
Thank you, Sue. Tim?
I wanted to share one thing with I don't have nearly the report that Sue does. I have one thing I would like to make folks aware of is that in the beginning of February, the Agency of Education is coming to the middle school as part of what is called a focused monitoring visit. This is a part of, they take a look at the continuum of student services. And so in preparation for that, there's a survey for staff and faculty to complete. A letter goes home specifically to parents with students who are served by an IEP or a 504. And they invite parents to fill out a survey. Both surveys are about 20 questions long. Or parents can elect to have an interview once the team arrives in February. And then they will select a kind of a random sampling of staff, not students, but community members and parents to talk to the services offered within the building. So
It's special education.
it's mostly focused on special
It's at the
education.
high
that's
school,
true.
too.
So I just want folks to know that if they hear from people in the community, you're getting a letter, we're getting an invitation to do this, just to let the board know that that's what's going on. We anticipate that.
Thank you, Tim. So, Leon, we have one policy to adopt and one policy to warn.
I'll have to apologize for one, unless it was just me. Both policies were pointing to the bullying prevention policy on the side when you went to look. Did you have that problem or no? Or that was just me last night late.
No, it said internet.
They both,
One was internet and one was bullying, right?
okay, I kept pulling up bullying for some reason.
I remember
No matter what
reading the
did
internet.
Last night.
I'm gonna double check.
Okay.
I looked at it.
So, the bullying is 500.
Right, and
Three
when I
and
clicked
the
on
other
either one, I got bullying.
No, the internet used to say you needed to refresh, Leon.
I needed to do something last night. It's a lot of reading. But anyway, you have the two policies on here. One for warning and one for adoption. If you want to,
So, do you want to warn the 5,003 for bullying?
yes.
And is this the new mandated with all the new changes in it from the state?
Yes, all of the changes for bullying in terms of the words cyberbullying and all that stuff that everybody talked about is in there.
Okay, can we have a motion to warn this policy?
So moved.
Second.
If you have any comments, please direct them to Leon or the committee. All in favor? It's unanimous. The next one?
The next one is 6148 for internet use, and it has all the things that Frank thought we needed to get in there and capture in terms of internet use. So it's now gone around through the one process and ready to be adopted.
There are tons of cross-references.
Right,
And this policy is way overdue.
yes.
And change it every year.
All in, motion, please?
So moved.
Fran and
Second.
Tim, Rob, all in favor? It's unanimous.
A couple other things on the policy.
Okay.
One of the things that we asked to do is it's a gap between, again, you said take the hat off. For CDC, we are doing things, and the same students are going over there in terms of policies. So I asked that the administrative assistants in the office between SBSU and the CDC communicate every time a policy comes to SBSU, that they send it to the administrative secretary and the CDC, and the CDC secretary likewise. Every time we have a policy review or policy adoption, it goes to Lisa in central office, so that we will both know what everybody's doing along that line.
That's a lot to ask, Leon.
Well, that's what we thought, it was. Both directors thought it was the right thing to do, and so we want to put that in motion.
You have a communication policy between us?
I don't have one of them, but we did have a policy meeting today, and that was just great today, and had a lot of things that come in, and we still have for Mount Anthony, the advanced promotion and
Retention?
Mike said he was gonna bring that back and meet so that you can do some more discussion along that line. And I think that was the only one that really affected this policy. It's always good to see more board members there than what was there at the policy meeting, because that's one of our main responsibilities, is to review and make sure that we have policies in place.
Well, I think part of the problem is that now it's at 4 o'clock.
It's at 4:30.
4:30?
Yes, and if that was a problem, no one raised a flag and said that that was an issue, and that was what we were looking for, if there's a problem getting to these meetings, in terms of understanding things.
All right, so we'll try and get more people there, Leon.
Okay.
And
That's it.
thank you, Leon. Donna? I'm looking at the old agenda, so there's 2 things under yours, right?
Yes, there's 2 things.
Okay.
So were we gonna share both of those things?
Yes.
One of my first items here was an update on free and reduced lunch, and I believe this was attached to your agendas, but there are some paper copies here. It's an article that was in the banner about the issue of poverty and the effects that has on our economy here, and also our education, and what that means to the future of our students, and in some ways, many ways, what we have been working on in looking at our budgets. And I think the interesting piece that I wanted to share with you was on the back side of that article are the most recent figures for free and reduced lunch in our schools. And it has shown a dramatic increase since 2008, where the first figures that are there represented. So it really is kind of for your information, and really brings to light all of the educational issues that can be related to poverty. And not necessarily that they are caused by poverty, but very closely correlated, extremely indicative of educational outcomes in their relationship to poverty. So
Did it go, here, I'm going to send this one down.
and those are most recent figures from the DOE for all of our schools.
So on the web, it's listed under, it's actually
Banner
shows,
article, or-
it says updated free and reduced lunch, the PDF. And I have to ask, because I never can remember, how long ago did we have the 6th grade, when did we close Catamount? Was it 2008? Somebody? I mean, there's definitely a shift. I mean, if you just look at some of the Bennington elementary schools, they go from 59% in 2008 to 71.
That's amazing.
And Molly Stark goes from 58 to 73. Monument about the same. North Bennington went from 24 to 32 over 5 years. And the high school and the middle school, which typically are lower than the combined numbers, are actually above 50% now. So I think it's a reflection of what's going on, I think, as well as, you know, sometimes one of the reasons they spike is that people don't always apply, but, so the need is probably greater right now. And I thought Chuck did a really nice job last October with this column, so I talked to Donna and we included it, because there's so much talk about increase in the budgets, so. Anybody have any questions or comments? So that's food for thought. And then the other thing Donna was gonna share is,
The
here,
Task Force for Economic Development has, is that their title?
yes.
So many of them have names that sound so much alike. But they have developed a strategic plan for economic development in the town, in Greater Bennington area. And these are the goals and objectives that they have developed as a team. I know, you've been going
I
to
think
some
they're
of the,
online.
some of the meetings?
They were on the minute.
Oh, were they?
On there, so.
Well, if people want a paper copy, we
Anybody
have
need a
paper
paper?
copies. And they really have completed all their goals now. I think only a few of them really apply to our school, but goal number one especially was to increase job opportunities and competitiveness and the quality of the workforce to meet the needs of existing and new businesses in Bennington. So they did include education as one of their targeted goals. I have been at one of their meetings, and I'm on one of their subcommittees. Sean Marie is on, goes to the meetings as well.
And Ken is on one of them.
Ken is on one of the committees too. So objective 1.1 was to improve and expand the workforce through targeted education, training, and curriculum development. So Bill Colvin?
Yep.
Has asked that you just look at these goals and give some feedback. He is going to be at our next meeting, so this was the homework that Sean Marie was referring to.
And what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to send you his email, and then you can just respond directly to him if you have any comments, suggestions. I'm not sure, Ken, have they adopted this, or they're still looking for feedback?
I think it's all done now, because I went to the meeting Monday and the planning commission is back to the regular agenda, so I think this is finished now.
But they're going to present it to somebody, right? So I think there's still time to give your input. So what I'm going to do is just copy you of the board and Sue and Tim, if you want to give any feedback to Bill. So you'll be getting that shortly.
A question.
Sure, Dave.
What's our current graduation rate?
About 82%. And it's actually gone up considerably in the last, I noticed I haven't seen this before.
I'm
Well,
sorry you
It's
haven't.
new to us too, but I think that's
What did
why
they
it's
put
im-
in there?
It's important to bring it.
Well, they
don't have
put
a number.
5% in 5 years, and we've
Goal
gone
of
up
5%
probably
increase.
about 9% in the last 5 years.
I was actually there for that discussion that day, and the idea was, do you want to put it at 100%, do you want to target it at the state? And I think the idea was, because I think they believed it was lower than what it was. So when Sue sent the information over through somebody, I don't know, was it Bill?
No, no one's taught, well, Katie goes to this, Katie Schoenbeck,
Yeah.
and Amy Beth Kessinger from our school.
Well, I think after speaking to you a couple months ago, I sent over some of the information from our schools so that they would have something tangible. You were at that meeting, right?
The article in the paper said Vermont is 91% graduation rate.
Highest in the nation.
But the nation has gone up all over, so everybody has increased some, but some has increased higher than others.
So our average, the Vermont state average is 91, And we're at 85?
Two.
No, it depends on the year, but it's in the low 80s.
Which is an improvement over 5 years ago. So,
Which we did express to them at the meeting. Good. So that is just for your feedback. Then another idea that one of the subcommittees had is this career week proposal, which I only, again, I find that our committees are kind of working in parallel, and it's important to bring it to the committee and to Sue and Tim and all of our principals about some of these ideas that happen a little bit in isolation. But the career week is a wonderful way that they're trying to generate some interest in continuing the community interaction that we started at the beginning of the year when we had all of the businesses come in for their forum and conversations with staff members about what are they looking for in our graduates and in their future employees. So they are trying to get some ideas together about a career week, probably in April or late March. I don't think they've identified a date really, but to have some people from businesses come in and visit the schools and to try to get some parents to come in and visit in the K-6 classrooms to talk about their careers and what those careers mean to them.
and if I remember correctly, now that it's jarring my memory, it was supposed to be that week that you do the sophomore summit? Or that already happened?
No, that's April 11th.
Okay.
And what I heard yesterday is they wanted to do this the first week in April.
So to be the same, around the same time.
And we're working on it.
Working on it.
Now
That's
that I
right.
know
Work in
what-
progress, right. And I think it really, the organization of it really will come more from the community as long as we can schedule in some kind of a day that we know that that event's going to happen, and how can we connect community members with the schools.
And I just want to say again, one of the most important things is this communication piece, because as Donna pointed out, there's so many groups and subgroups doing things that, you know, you have to kind of remind people that if you want information about the high school, you got to kind of get to the high school or get to the
Right,
elementary
right.
school, or somehow you can't just, you know, so we're trying, and that, you know, Ken's on one of those committees, Donna goes to one, Catherine, but there's a lot of people trying to do a lot of good things, but there's only so many people to go around.
If they're working with Bill Colvin or whoever's working with the Career Development Center as well?
I don't know, Leon, they work, yeah, I'm sure they are. That's the Workforce Development
Right,
Committee.
It just seems that since they're the career development centers, that would be sort of obvious.
I'm trying to turn the heat up there.
Yep.
And it's sort of a related question, the 82% cohort graduation rate, Sue, that you mentioned that we have. If we have a student who, an eighth grader who goes to the CDC,
In 8th grade?
enters his freshman year, leaves MAU, goes into the CDC, spends his 4 years at the CDC.
That can't happen.
Can't happen,
Goes to
okay.
ninth
He's an
You're-
MAU
It's an
student
MAU student who
who
takes
attends
a
classes
CDC
there.
program or
Okay.
class.
So that he would still count as an MAU
Yeah.
graduate.
Yes.
Yes,
There
they
are,
grad-
that you don't graduate from the CDC.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
The other thing to realize, it's 4-year. If they graduate in 5 years, it's a dropout.
But we have a 5-year and a 6-year rate too, which is even higher than the 80-something.
Oh, everybody's would be, because,
But they started doing that in the last couple of years, a 5-year.
or if you choose to stay in, because special education students are entitled to stay until they're 22, they're considered dropouts, even if they have all their credits. It's just how the law is in Vermont.
And if they drop out, come back and drop out, they're counted twice.
No, they're
Not
not.
anymore?
No, they're not, because what we do is they send me a list and I go through every kid to make sure that if they're not counted twice. So they give you a chance to take care of it.
At least they do that now.
Well, and I do think that it's good to have these discussions, and one thing that we might discuss with Bill Colvin when he comes is if these are goals for the community to reduce the dropout rate and increase graduation rate, many of the programs that we saw we were losing from our supplemental grants were exactly the programs that were targeting those students and have been successful.
Absolutely.
And now we're losing them because those supplemental grant funds are being diminished every year. So maybe it's something that we could look for more community support for those specific programs if that is a goal, so.
So specifically, and we bring it up a lot, is the Learn to Earn that used to be at the middle school that was funded, grant funded, where the students, the middle school students went out, and that grant, to do that no longer exists, but I think people are trying to get it to happen anyway. So if there's no more questions, we'll move on to the next item, which is the VSBA education goals. This is another group that presented to statewide and to the legislature the Vermont School Boards Association's education agenda for this year. Ken, do you want to speak to that, or?
No, that's okay. That was Steve's job, that was Steve's.
So it's on the web, it's enclosed, this is their goals for the year.
It's a big,
It's 4 page, did I put the long version or the short version?
On there.
I put the long version?
Yeah, you got it all.
Well, one was 4 pages and one was 10 pages, so,
And
yeah,
more.
okay.
Yeah, wow.
So, if you have any feedback, you could give it to Ken, he'll bring it upstate. And then, we did the review for the meetings, we'll take care of the regular meeting, but we will have to meet on, the voting day is March 5th, and we will have to meet the night before for the annual meeting, which is, no, it's March what? It's March 4th. We'll be meeting Monday evening, March 4th, and Nelson and Dave, there's a schedule of different times for the different boards, Pownell, Shaftesbury, so that they're staggered. Tim usually runs from MAU down to Pownell, so you can follow, his racing down there. So,
That's right. Give you a ride.
there's a number of minutes that are listed under FYI, so you can see what's been happening in some of these committees. SVSU met, when did we meet?
Last Wednesday.
Week ago.
A week ago. Meetings. Okay, so Fran, was there anything significant we'll report out there?
Just budget,
Oh, we passed the budget.
that's it.
We approved.
Yes.
We approved the budget.
And what was the increase in that budget?
I think
18.7
30%.
or something.
No, that was yours.
Oh.
BSD was 19. The SU was 20. And that was mostly special education costs and grant money disappearing. So then, we do need an executive session for 2 personnel items. They won't take very long, and Sue, or actually, we only have one. We're going to postpone one. So Sue will come into executive session with us. And Richard, I don't think this is going to take very long, and since it is only 8 o'clock, I want you to hang out for a few minutes to see if we make a motion. Yes.
I just want to, I made a mistake. The Vermont School Board Association is not the long version, it's short.
Okay, Leanna is correct. It's the short version from the VSBA on there. I didn't think I put the long version on there.
Jean Marie, do you want to do anything about that?
That's what we're going to go into executive session.
That's a-
So, we're going to, can I have a motion to go into executive
So
session?
moved. Second, third, fourth.
All in favor? It's unanimous. We're going to go down to the conference room. Unanimous.
2,000.